Good afternoon, it's Jeff again with Treeline Sports, and welcome back to another edition of Milsurp Rifle. And today we're going to be discussing the K98 or the Kar98K. This gun was introduced in 1935 and it is a shortened version of the GU 98. So we have carbine 98 and K means shortened, hence the K98. Now the three K98s that I have today are representations of the K98. There are three guns that I have are Russian capture rifles, and I have a fourth one which was what I believe to be a US bringback rifle, or what some guys call a duffelback rifle. You can tell the difference because the Russian capture rifles have an X which was marked on the left hand side of the receiver. They also put these X's a lot of times over any of the Waffen amps or proof marks that you'll find on the gun. Whereas if you have a duffelbag rifle or a GS Spring home rifle, the whole gun could be entirely intact, meaning an all-match rifle. And again, when we talk about all-match, we're talking about the serial numbers. Now, as most guns, the last two digits on the smaller parts of those rifles were utilized. So you won't find the entire serial number on small parts. And I'm talking about the receiver serial number as well as the stampings that you'll find on small parts. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the US captured or duffel bag rifle so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here we have the US rifle. That was German rifle, excuse me, that was captured by the U.S. And immediately when you look for these guns, the first thing you want to do is pay attention to the receiver. And what you'll find in the receiver is a manufacturer code, the year of the manufacturer, and the serial number. Now you can see that a collector at some point put white paint or filled in a lot of the lettering on this, and that was to show all the matching parts. This is a true all matching gun except for the stock. This stock is not correct for this, and if we look at serial number in the stock, you'll find them in two places. The serial numbers are either underneath the butt plate, or in some cases you'll find them in the channel. They were not put on the stock here. That was a Russian capture mark that was put, and they did match the serial number to the receiver after they were captured and reassembled. So just know that when you're looking at these guns, you're looking to purchase one. If you want a duffel bag gun or a bring back by a US troop, you want to find an all-match gun. That also does increase the value of these guns. Difficult to find an all-match Kar98 today, but they are out there. I'm sure you can find them online, as well as a local shop or perhaps a gun show. So just be aware when you're looking at these, those are the things to look for and what they may mean. I'm going to go ahead also and bring up a Russian capture piece so you can see what that looks like. So here we have a Russian capture piece. Now this particular gun did not have the X on the receiver. Don't know if you're going to be able to see it. However, what you will find is peen marks or dents where the lower symbol would have been below the eagle. You'll also find, and again as I mentioned, the stock has a serial number right here, and that would have not been the case on an issued piece. This was captured by the Russians during the war, most likely on the Eastern Front, and then what they did post-war was disassemble these guns and put them back together. Now another interesting piece that you'll have, and this was added to the gun after it was purchased, but these second screws that are implanted here are called capture screws, and what they do is they hold the tightness of the screw in the floor plate and places what have you. These also were not put back in by Russian armament. You'll also find on a lot of these that the front sight is has grooves on either side. And this was for a sight hood, and that was something else the Russians tossed away, I'm told. Actually remelted a lot of these parts down for other parts that they may have used as raw materials. I'll bring up an example of a hooded sight so you can see it. Going back to the duffel bag gun, this is the hood that I'm talking about, and this was great for anti-glare. I find it useful in a snowy condition. I actually do hunt with these guns, and if it's snowing out, your front sight does not get obscured or clouded up with snow or snow buildup. These are fantastic. I absolutely love these. They do say in low light conditions it may be difficult to see the front sight. I've never really had that problem. Now, since we're talking about sights, the rear sight to the K98s is a tangent sight. Now the German, and since we're talking about the hood on the front side of these guns, this hood was put in on rifles anytime after 1939. So chances are you may have a front sight that doesn't even have the grooves, and that doesn't mean that you have an incorrect front sight. Most likely your gun, if you look at the date code on the receiver, was manufactured prior to 1938. And as you can see, this particular gun, as we showed earlier, was manufactured in 1943. Now, as I said, this is not the correct stock. It would have had a laminate stock. And let's talk about that a little bit. So, now, since we're talking about the stocks were primarily, you'll find them to be laminate wood. This particular representation is what I believe walnut, just based on coloring. However, the Germans also did produce stocks using elm, and in certain cases you'll find them in beechwood. So there was other products used during the time to produce these, but anything after roughly 1940, 1941 is going to be a laminate stock, and it was cheaper to manufacture that. It's actually a stronger. It essentially is plywood. It's a very tough material. It did add a little weight to the gun, but the durability, as well as in adverse conditions, the functionality of it made sense to use at the time. So take a look at your gun. These are just endless with history. You can go through all the markings on your gun. I mean, I could talk for hours on markings, proof marks, date of manufacture, date of the stock. You'll find some of these to have a cup butt plate, like in this case, or earlier models before 1940 had a flat butt plate. All butt plates were steel. But again, it's just endless information you can pull off your rifle. If you're a history guy, you like your girl, and you like history, get yourself one of these. It's fascinating what you may find on these pieces. You can, do the history of where it was made, where it came from, what war it may have been used in, and, just a great piece to own. Let's talk a little bit about what the German would have been issued, say, in World War II for combat. He would have been issued, obviously, his K98, Kar98K, as well as a cleaning kit, bayonet, and, of course, uniform and so forth. But for today's purposes, I do want to go over representations that we do have, and I do have a bayonet for the Kar98K. So this is a Kar98K bayonet, or what's also known as an S84/98-3 bayonet, and it would have been issued to a troop during World War II serving the Vermont or German Army. It also included what's called a frog. Now, for you guys that don't know, a frog is a leather piece, essentially would attach to your belt and thusly hold the scabbard, and then allow you, obviously, to pull the bayonet out freely from your belt. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the rifle. Now, you'll also notice this has a groove below it, as well as a channel to click into the bayonet capture. And that groove essentially is for the cleaning rod, which we'll go into as well. So go ahead and affix the bayonet to the Russian capture piece that we have. You can see it goes on just like that. And there is your set pin or capture pin for the bayonet. It would have looked as such. So neat piece. These are also serial numbered, and you can find these as well and do your history on these as well. There was various manufacturers of these, and these are collectible in themselves. But neat to own one of these to go along with your rifle. Now, something else that a German troop would have been issued would have been a cleaning kit. Cleaning kit would look something like these, and again, like most all military collectible pieces, these are also highly sought after and collectible, and you can do your history on these as well. This particular one is an aftermarket, after the war cleaning kit. It is actually 100% correct, and you can tell from the patina and so forth. It is dated. It's probably, I'm assuming, 1948 era, but I know it's not original German because there are no markings on it. It is an unmarked kit, and you can find these relatively easily online. An original kit you may have to do a little homework on. But inside this kit, what they did use, and this is correct for the period, they would have used a chain pull through, and on here connected are aluminum connectors so as not to damage your bore. You would have had an oiler. This would actually be an oiler that you would use in the field, and this is what guys refer to as a spoon, and this was used, you would wrap string or cloth material, and you could use the back of this to clean out your chamber area or what have you. And then it has a button on it that you could use to depress your magazine. If you had a jam or needed to clean out your magazine, you would press this in and it will release the magazine spring assembly out of the magazine. So neat piece to add to your collection. And if you have any questions or need any more information on this, feel free to let me know. There were, as I said, various manufacturers of these. Now, as we were discussing the sights, the rear sight on the Kar98 is a tangent type sight, and the military during that time used 197 grain full metal jacket Spitzer type round. 197 grain. It's a heavy bullet. And you'll note that there really is no way to adapt for windage on these rifles. These rifles were set at the factory. Now, chances are when you go to shoot this at the range, you'll find them to be almost dead on. It is difficult, however, to adapt for windage or left to right movements, but I have found a part to do it, and I actually do use these rifles. I'd like to use these for black bear, and I find them to be pretty effective for that due to the heaviness of the cartridge. And I like to get them really, really tight. So the way I've done it, I found this terrific part, and you can find these online. This simply threads over the front sight like thus, and utilizing the two set screws, you can move your front sight left to right. Just remember, you're going to do that in a reverse mode from strike points, but there is a way to adjust your windage, and I find these to be great. So just another factoid for you. You guys out there looking to accurize, these are fantastic. Since we're talking about the stocks on the rifle, I do want to go over something that is very distinctive on a Kar98. You'll find this on other German rifles, but specifically its signature is this piece right here. And this piece is a device. It is functional. This is for the disassembly and reassembly of the firing pin for field use. So a troop in the field could take apart the firing pin, replace the firing pin or what have you, or even just clean it. And that's what that ring is for. But very signature. It's a very distinct circle that you'll find on the Kar98. Now, since we had talked a little bit about the bayonet and the cleaning rod, I did want to mention to you guys the cleaning rod is a gangable rod. in that, I'll try and hold this up. Don't know if you can see that in the camera, but if you take this rod out and unthread it, you'll notice it's very short. What the troops would have done would have taken, had they not had that pull-through kit, or would rather use a full-length rod. You can take 3 cleaning rods together from 3 rifles, put them together and make a full rod. Neat way of doing it. Give you a full-length rod. You and your buddies, you could sit there, campfire, whatever have you, and clean your rifles. But know that that's what that's for, and that's why it's so short. So, interesting factoid for you. Now, the box magazine is a 5-round box, and the way it was loaded was with stripper clips. You would put the stripper in, the receiver, and if we look inside here, just like the Mosin, you will find ears, if you will, where the stripper would feed into. You would simply put that in and thread all 5 rounds in at one shot. You could max this gun out with 6 rounds, holding that last round down and then adding a 6th round to it. So essentially this is a 6 round bolt action fed rifle. You'll find a lot of manufacturers that make this ammunition. It is 7.92 by 57 millimeter. Some do refer to it as 8mm Mauser. Today we're going to be shooting Privy Partisan soft point. I also have some military full metal jacket post-war stuff. I believe to be Egyptian for the Hakim rifle. I could be incorrect about that. But a lot of manufacturers still make this ammo even today. Winchester, Federal has around, and so forth. So it's a common cartridge, so not hard to find at all. Interesting factoid for you: the Russian capture pieces were in fact used well beyond World War II. We did find these, for example, in Korea, as well as Vietnam, and even the French utilized these pieces. So you might even find them on obscure battlefields today. Russia had millions of these after the defeat of Germany in World War II, due to the amount of troops that were presented into the Eastern Front. So a lot of these guns are reissued and have been used up until recently. They're known for hard hitting. They are extremely accurate. Great action, being the Mauser action. So just note that these are still in use today. Now I want to talk a little bit about sniper variants. There was the Germans basically had 2 sniper variants of this rifle. One was a complete scope that went all the way across. The more common was what was referred to as a ZF-41 scope, which was a long eye relief scope, meaning that the shooter would be back here and then be able to see through the scope at a distance beyond eye point. Also known today as pistol scopes. Now, I do not have a true representation of a sniper variant. However, we do have, and what you can do is turn your Kar98 into what would have been essentially a ZF-41, like this one is. So this one is a B-square mount equipped with a Nikon pistol scope, and again, all aftermarket stuff, but good way to accurize your gun. Use a piece of history in hunting or what have you and still be accurate. It does take a little bit of the value away of the original rifle. However, I would say just keep your original rear leaf sight, tangent sight, and you can always put it back in. This particular setup that I used did not alter the gun in any way other than remove the rear leaf sight as well as leaf spring, and essentially it just went right in these holes. Did not have to do any drilling or added work. There's another company called S&K Mounts, great people in Pennsylvania that manufacture this. Highly recommend that. Great equipment. So kind of a neat way to set up your rifle if you really want to get accurate. Now we're going to shoot these guns today using both a full metal jacket round as well as a soft point round. But before we go ahead and do that, I did want to go over the bolt with you guys like I always do and make sure you understand how to put your rifle in safe. So I'm going to, as you can see, the action is open and it is clear. We're going to push the follower down, close the bolt. And you'll notice now that the bolt is closed. This is a Russian capture piece with a cup butt plate. Oh, something interesting. If you notice the cup butt plate, you'll notice a slight tapered angle right here. And that, you may find that on some of the flat plates as well. But that tapered angle, clever design. When shouldering the piece, that tapered angle allows the butt plate to ride up in to your shoulder pocket without catching any material or cloth or anything you may have you. Neat design, very clever. Anyway, going back, you'll see that this lever here, this is essentially your safety. And you'll see it's in the left position. This essentially is in the fire position. So we're going to move it, and just like the Swede rifle that we covered, this is now in half safe. So the gun is cocked, the gun will not fire, and I could still remove the bolt. And then when I remove the bolt in half safe, this will allow me to disassemble the bolt. If we put the gun, or excuse me, the lever all the way to the right or in the same direction as the bolt, I'm now also in safe, but I'm also in full safe, allowing the gun to totally be locked up. I cannot remove this bolt. So full safe, half safe, fire position. So as I always say, know how to operate your safety as though you were shooting it, and hey, nobody gets hurt. Now today we are going to be shooting a full metal jacket and soft points, as I said. I'm going to start off with full metal jackets. We're going to shoot some apples down there. I do have 2 cameras running so you can see the impact shots. And then I'm going to go ahead and shoot the soft point. I'm going to shoot it into a pumpkin to show you what that can do. But anyway, let's pull up the Russian capture and start shooting. Now, before you shoot any firearm, always be safe. Always have your eye protection as well as ear protection. If you want to use gloves, that's great. Never wrong to be too safe. But always use these before firing any gun at all. Always know what's going to stop the round, what's behind it, as well as what's behind you, and nobody gets hurt. Thank you. Let's do some shooting and have some fun. All right, this is the Russian capture. Let's see what it does. Now, some of your viewers questions earlier in some of our other milsurp guns did ask me about what to do in front sight when the front sight is completely dark. And as you can see, I did put a little bit of orange nail polish on this one. I love that setup. I like the bright orange on the front, usually bright green in the back, but you can set it up however you wish. There's also some terrific sight paints on the market, wouldn't exclude those out, and they do have some that glow. So anyway, let's set this up. I'm going to do one round at a time. Start with full metal jacket rounds, see what it does to apples. On hot. We have full metal jacket rounds, 8mm Mauser, Russian capture. Let's get some. Going hot. Now, one thing you'll notice on this gun, as most milsurp guns, after you fire your last shot, the follower does prevent the bolt from going forward, letting you know that you have fired your last shot. As well as this particular gun is very, very smooth. You won't have any chamber adaptation issues. works great in the cold. Now, extreme cold, as the Germans would have faced in World War II, this gun can give you a little bit of trouble, and that's because of the tolerances being so close with this setup. So extreme cold, like you may find in Alaska, these guns may be too tight, but I've always found them to work great. They are very accurate. No disrespect to my offhand shooting, which isn't that great, but terrific rifles. Now, just to give you guys a close-up look of this cartridge, this is the 7.92 by 57 millimeter round. It is very similar, in my opinion, to a 30-06. That doesn't mean you can use 30-06. You can absolutely not. However, as far as ballistically goes, as well as cartridge type, almost identical as a 30-06. Of course, our guys would have used 150 grain in World War II. They would have been using 197 grain. Different as far as impact and punch, but also the velocities were different. So anyway, just to give you a close-up look at it, there's your 8mm Mauser. Going hot. Let's see if I can actually hit one. Three-shot group. I'm going to use a different Russian capture gun, see if I have any better luck with this one. Going hot. These guns cycle terrific. Again, easy ejection, virtually no issues on the Mauser actions. These were designed after the M98 action by Mauser. And again, you'll find a variety of actual plants that made these when you start to get into your history on these. As again, I could speak for hours on each individual plant when they were made and produced. Do your own research, have a lot of fun with it. Let's go ahead and use the Privy Partisan soft tip 197 grain bullet. See if that does any better than the Milsurp stuff that I have. Three-shot group. And this will be a apple target. Going hot. Certainly perform better at short yardage. Apples. Let's see what happens. Three-shot group. What a terrific rifle to shoot. Lots of power, lots of impact power, as you can see. Really enjoyed making this for you today. We're going to set up that pumpkin, see what that does, just so you get an idea of the power that's in this gun. And again, please like and subscribe to our channel, Treeline Sports. And this is our Milsurp rifle series. Thank you. We look forward to having you. Also, don't hesitate to ask questions. Anything you want to see in the future, or anything that we've already presented. We'd like to hear your responses, both positive and critical. Let us know if we made any mistakes. We're always open to it. We're not perfect. And we do love to hear all your input. Some of you guys know way more about these type of rifles than I ever would. And we certainly do enjoy bringing everybody up to speed on history today. Thank you very much. Okay, as we promised, let's see what this K98 can do to a pumpkin. Let's plant some pumpkin seeds. Then we're using Privy 197 grain soft point ammo. Going hot. A lot of fun.